If she weren't a black belt, I might just challenge her to a brawl.
Taryn did what now?
I am terrified. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Mel, and today I bring you guys one of my favorite times of the month, which is a 48-hour readathon. Particularly a 48-hour readathon vlog that is just gonna be full of all of the self-care, super chill, super relaxed vibes, which is exactly what I'm going for this weekend. I've had a super stressful week with construction happening in my apartment, which if you don't know, my living room floor literally kind of like exploded and it popped up and it broke and my living room was unwalkable. And so for the past week we've been constructing, making sure that the floor tiles are back to normal, and that has taken everything out of me. And so I'm just ready to sit down for the weekend and have some good reading times. And so in perfect timing, I am doing a readathon with the Citadel, which is my Patreon, which if you're not a part of, I would highly recommend joining in case you want to get some extra content that you're not going to see here on the YouTubes. So we are planning a 48-hour readathon starting tonight at 7 p.m, which is just a little bit away, and I have a bunch of everything from rereads to series completion to poetry collections, short stories. I'm super excited to talk about the TBR for today's video, but before I do need to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is Surfshark. Now let me tell you before I get into what Surfshark's about, in case you don't know of them, I live off of VPNs to buy books, to watch shows, to watch movies, and just to make sure that I'm protecting myself on the interwebs. And this all started because of my brother, because he is always just watching and he's like, are you using a VPN? Are you protecting your information? If you don't know what VPN stands for, it essentially stands for Virtual Private Network, which essentially keeps your online identity safe by encrypting all of the information sent between your device and the internet, which will not only help keep you protected from online cyber attacks, which are unfortunately very common nowadays, but to also prevent big companies from acquiring your information. Beyond the security aspect of the VPN, what I personally really love is that you get to hop around different countries without the necessity of buying a plane ticket and actually hopping on a plane, and that unlocks a bunch of stuff that you wouldn't otherwise have available in the country that you reside in. A few examples of what I like to do with a VPN. First of all, buying books on Book Depository. Let me let you guys in on a tip. If you travel to the UK via VPN, if you look for something like the Way of Kings hardcover, if you were on the US site, this is marked as $50. If you put this on the UK site, it's actually $27. So if you want to be converted to the VPN life just like myself, you can actually use my code MEL if you go to Surfshark's website, and you will not only get 83% off, which is already a steal, you will also get 3 months for free. They also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. In case you're not satisfied with your experience, they will give you your money back. So if you do want to sign up to Surfshark VPN, I will be leaving my link at the top of my description. Thank you so much to them for sponsoring today's video. And without further ado, let's get right into this 48-hour readathon TBR. This is how it's looking. It's looking pretty crazy. And my plan is not to get through every single one of these, but to make progress in some of these and then finish some of these. So the first one I want to make progress with is Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. You guys know I'm hosting the Greenbone Saga along, and this March, by the time that you see this video, actually, the live show will have already happened, but this live show is next Saturday and I need to finish this book. However, because I know my week is so busy, I want to burn through some pages of this during this weekend, during this vlog, to see if I can chip away at this slowly but surely in the next 48 hours and maybe get halfway through. That would be pretty sweet. 2 more books I need to read before finishing this series, and I will definitely get these done this weekend, and those are The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black and How the King of Elfheim Learned to Hate Stories, which is the short novella collection that came out after the release of this one. I think this one actually came out last year, 2020. Can't remember. However, I have read most of the Cruel Prince series, The Folk of the Air, and these are the only 2 that I need to finish it, and so I thought this weekend would be the perfect opportunity to do that. Another book that I am definitely getting through in its entirety this weekend, and that is a poetry collection actually that I hauled recently. I told you guys I wanted to read it this month and definitely knock this out, and it is Clarity and Connection by Yung Pueblo. I am super excited to read this, and I feel because of all of the chill, relaxed self-care vibes, poetry is literally medicine for the soul, and it fits too perfectly. And last but not least, because I am already late to my own live show, the last book I'm going to chip away at this weekend but not finish is Addie LaRue, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I've been itching to reread. I read an early copy of it, however, I have not read it traditionally published. When I read the early copy of it, the book did not have its illustrations, and there were a lot of things that I believe were edited by the time that this book came out. So this is my TBR for the next 48 hours. Wish me luck. Love you guys, and I'll see you on the next clip when I have my first update. I don't even know what I'm starting with. We'll see what happens. Welcome to the morning of the readathon. friends, hello. So also, first of all, reorganized bookshelves. Who is she? I had to do some reorganizing yesterday because these were a mess, and we've been constructing in the house, rebuilding floors that exploded, which has been a week in and out of itself. I'm literally exhausted, but not at the same time. I don't know, it's been a mess. This weekend is all about reading. I am just getting ready, well, ready in like a very loose sense, but I'm about to go out to our deli to see what I can find for this weekend, and then we'll get on with the actual vlog when it's actual time to read. Tis the trashy outfit. We've got a hoodie, we've got jeans, socks, and we're about to go. Okay, you guys, super random, but for everybody else who loves Once Upon a Time or who used to watch the show when it was airing, anytime I hear the word or read the word dearie, what do you want, dearie? I just picture Rumpelstiltskin, and that's just a fun fact. Taryn did what now? I don't like Taryn, and I think this is like, it's good knowledge that I don't. What did you do, Taryn? What in the world? So, if you can see the reflection of the computer, no you cannot. However, I am officially 100 pages into Queen of Nothing. I didn't realize how short this book was, you guys. I thought this was about the same length as The Wicked King, which is still arguably not very long, but at least like 350 pages. This is literally 305 pages. I'm on page 109, which means that I'm 200, actually less, like 190 something pages out from the ending, which is wild, first of all. Why is it so short? And virtually nothing really has happened. Though I guess the pacing so far really makes sense with the circumstances of how book 2 ends. And I think that's what I like so far about how the story is developing in the third book, is that it's not too fast-paced and that it's not doing anything crazy or out of character or something just to kind of introduce certain characters back to the fairy world. And so that part I like. However, I don't know if this book is long enough to actually make any sort of progress and development. Those mean the same thing, Mel, but to actually make any decisions that make sense now in like 190 pages. I don't know if that part makes too much sense to me, but we'll see what happens, because I'm honestly scared now of the length of this book, knowing that this is the culmination of the series, because I don't think it's going to be executed very well. Being inside Jude's head is always really interesting, and it's always really interesting to kind of see her adapt very quickly to the situations that she's put into. It's been really interesting to kind of see her reminisce about the fairy world and to think about all of the things that she was able to do and kind of yearn for that again. And it's always just fascinating to see her thought process and to see her try and figure things out before anybody else, or to kind of hijack people's plans, which I thoroughly enjoy. It's like she's really the person who's always messing with everybody on the sidelines, and like people don't know up until they do. It's always just really cool. We had this small passage about Cardan's power, which we witnessed for the first time in The Wicked King. And when I tell you guys, first of all, that scene in The Wicked King, I was like thoroughly shocked because I was not expecting that at all. And then the inkling, the little preview that we saw in this book already of his power, I wish we would see more. I wish we could see more, because I would like to see things firsthand. And I think that's the one thing about this book, that were it longer and maybe in third person point of view, maybe we would be able to see some of the most most important events that are happening in the story, and not only that, but also witness them firsthand and see how that's directly impacting the story long term. Because I feel the fact that we are only not necessarily being told these things, but we are seeing the repercussions of these things and we are seeing the outcome of these things, and then we're kind of going along with them and trying to play them off with certain characters. It is interesting, but I just wish we would have gotten the lead up to that, because that way we get more context, the story gets more meatiness, and overall it just gets more development. So that's like the one thing that this book has going against it, is the fact that a lot of things are happening, and because this is in first person and we follow Jude directly, it's like we're almost missing a part of the story that is really, really important, and I just wish we would be witnessing those too. We'll see. I have also yet to see a fucking snake in the series. Like, when is this fucking snake gonna come up? Like, in 190 pages? Like, when is it coming? This man really said, "Mock me all you like, whatever I imagined then. Now it is I who would beg and grovel for a kind word from your lips. By you, I am forever undone." Stop. It is currently 1:39 a.m. and I finished the live show a little bit ago, but also went for longer than I was expecting because my patrons and I got into a really great astrology tarot conversation that I just could not back away from. However, in good news, I did finish The Queen of Nothing during the sprint, and this book was interesting, and I think mostly it boils down to it was so short that the things I wanted to see were not really allowed to be explored as in depth as I would have hoped in this book. And I mean, these books are so good despite being so short. So let's not take away from the fact that these books are still enjoyable, they're still bingeable, and like they're still so addicting, and you really do fall in love with the characters. I read the entire series, and throughout the whole thing, I was like, I love Carden, Jude is a badass, fucking hate Taryn, Vivi needs to sit down, Heather writes all the fucking way, like somebody save poor sweet Heather, somebody freaking kill off Maddox. The feelings towards the characters are very much there. The political landscape is incredibly interesting to me, and just seeing what role everybody plays in the bigger scheme that is the politics of this world has just been honestly really interesting. And I think out of the old school YA books that I've read, this series honestly has a really, really great political intrigue system that I really wasn't expecting going into. And so that part I'll forever cherish and really enjoy. The snake thing was also something that I was not expecting. I was just expecting something really basic with the snake, because I literally stumbled upon an illustration of Jude with the snake, I think 2 weeks ago, but it was in like a transparent background, so it wasn't really like, we didn't really have a setting for the illustration. And I was just waiting this whole book. I was like, so when is the snake gonna come up? And it definitely comes up in like the last 100 pages or so. The snake plot twist, the snake happening was not what I was expecting at all. So like that was shocking, but it was like weird at the same time, but the outcome of it was really, really nice. And the ending in general was like really sweet. I love how it ends almost in like a very peaceful way, which is something that honestly like the characters have earned. I just again wish we would have gotten more development, more backstory, just more meatiness in like the middle of the book, so that ending could be even more justified, because it already is. I just would have liked to see more of the story, especially because again, this book, this one in particular, is so short that what it did in the last 100 pages was one thing after the other, and it almost felt, depending on what page you were at, almost felt like each paragraph was a different sequence, it was a different action, it was a different twist, it was a different result. And so it was just so fast that it gave you no time to digest what was happening. After all this time proclaiming that I was not into Carden, that a girl would be into into Cardan, because this book is just what I feel solidifies how much of a cinnamon roll Cardan is, beyond all of the facade of being cruel and wicked, which he is. He is infamous for that. He has been raised by the cruelest of people, and I think in a lot of ways Cardan has just been a result of his upbringing. He has been a victim of circumstance in many different ways, and you can see that throughout the series. But I think the quotes in here, iconic. The declarations of love, absolutely stunning, love them. And again, if this book would have been like maybe 450 pages, because honestly it's the last book, and I feel like last books in series are longer anyway, this book could have been something else. Holly Black could have added more angst, more character development, more tension between those twists, and it would have been so fucking good. I am torn between like a 2 and a 3 star, if only because I know this is like not the best that I read in the series. Like the best so far has definitely been The Wicked King. I don't know. I don't know. I gave it a 3 star on Goodreads just because of Cardan, to be quite honest with you. But I feel like it resides like right in the middle, like maybe a 2.5. I feel like a 2.5. It's sad because Wicked King was so good. Now for the star of the show, How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. I had no idea what this was about up until literally an hour ago. So I was like, what is this book about? And apparently this follows Cardan's story a little before The Cruel Prince, or maybe a lot before The Cruel Prince, then beyond Queen of Nothing, and also just pivotal moments of the series told from his point of view. So I'm really fucking excited to see everything Cardan related, because honestly I love this man so much, and just this illustration like right at the start, so pretty. So I'm really excited to give this a read and just relish in all of the magical vibes of Ravina Kai's illustrations and the story. All right, friends, so it is currently 3:28 a.m., very late, and a girl is like tired. Like I feel like I'm squinting a hell of a lot. So I'm just gonna talk about this book real quick and then turn into bed. I need to take the makeup off, need some sleep, especially if I want to go to a cafe in like 6 hours. I did finish How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, and this was so beautiful. I was reading this whole thing, and the one thing I kept thinking about was how great would the reading experience have been for the Folk of the Air series if we would have gotten a Cardan POV. I'm not even asking for like a million different POVs in the story, but if it would have been third person and we got alternating chapters between Jewett and Cardan, that would have made the story so much better. And I get why Holly Black didn't do it, because then it kind of gives away a lot of Cardan's own feelings, and I feel like it slightly takes away from the angst. But this was just gorgeous, and one of the very first things that we read, let me just look for this. Having only recently stopped playing the villain, Cardan thinks again of the winding path of decisions that brought him to this unlikely place. Here with her, racing over the sky, planning to end trouble instead of making more of it. It's little things like that that I really wish we would have gotten more of in the Folk of the Air series. But again, I understand why it didn't happen, but I am glad that Holly Black decided to release this moment, because not only are the illustrations for this absolutely like flabbergastingly stunning, but the stories also provide more context into who Cardan is as a character. What we kind of see throughout the series is this constant of him being raised in very horrible circumstances, and despite being a prince, you can tell that he was always shunned, whether it was because of a prophecy or because people just didn't necessarily like him as a potential heir to the throne. You saw him being mistreated by his father, by his mother, being handed handed over to Baelkin, which was his most horrible brother to raise him, and him really learning that cruelty from his brother and how that continued to affect him as he continued to grow up, and how he was really relishing off of people's pain, but at the same time, the fact that the few things that he did cherish were also the things that ended up hurting him the most at times, and how he continued to seek out substances in order to hide the wine and the drugs, and just making himself forget by distracting himself through this is obviously a very complicated coping mechanism to navigate, and it's a conversation that obviously has a lot of nuance to it, but you can tell that Hardin's messed up. Like, Hardin is not just a simple boy, a simple character, a simple prince. And I truly love that the moments that are mentioned in The Cruel Prince and The Wicked King that were so instrumental into building Hardin as he is, as I was gonna say as a human being, he's not human, but as a fae, all of those moments that were mentioned, we get more context on right here. And I was both horrified reading the things that he had to go through as a kid. I love that I always talk about these characters as if they're like real people, but there's it kind of feels that way. But to kind of read the things that he had to go through when he was young through Baelkin's hand was just horrible. And I am glad that BB Cinnamon Roll is happy and that he gets to be with Miss Jude. It makes me really, really happy because Hardin deserves the absolute world. But yes, I gave this 5 stars because it was honestly the moment. It was really beautiful. Illustrations were stunning, and this is definitely something that I'll just probably reread a million times over just because it's short. And I also think what Holly Black manages to do in this one is like really nail down that fairy tale-esque sort of tone in writing that just worked so well. And so between that and like the weight of the book and the paper that the book is printed in, it really just reminded me of those fairy tale books that I used to read when I was younger, and it's just the same look and feel, the same vibe. And so it kind of really took me back that nostalgic place of me reading, you know, like Snow White and like Sleeping Beauty. I think I'm just gonna take this off, have a good like skincare self-care moment. We'll decide what to do in the morning, but I do think I'm gonna start out my morning with a poetry collection. Good morning, friends. It is very bright. Between me and the white t-shirt and the hoodie, not a good combination. But hello everybody, good morning. It is currently 9:49 a.m. So I'm gonna start packing everything up so that we can go over to a coffee shop. I'm very excited. Haven't gone over there in like a hot minute, or what it feels like a hot minute. So I'm going to pack some annotation tools, just like very small ones, and then we're gonna go and we're gonna enjoy a good relaxed time. So tis the outfit today. We've got a ponytail, we've got the side pieces, then we've got gray jacket, white crop top, and then we've got sweatpants, just massive sweatpants to be comfortable. Hi everybody, so it is currently 12:58 p.m. and it seems to be my fatal flaw to literally update a vlog or start a vlog directly before I need to hop on a live show, because I literally have a live show in 2 minutes. However, I am officially back home. Well, I don't know how I could be unofficially home, but point is, I'm home. I went to the coffee shop and I read 110 pages of Clarity and Connection, and this seems to be a very introspective poetry collection about healing, connecting to yourself, yourself and moving past generational trauma, moving past coping mechanisms that don't seem to be that healthy, and how to better connect with yourself in order to better connect with others. And I think the message of the book is obviously loud and clear, and it's really beautiful. The language also is very simplistic, though I think it works really well to obviously convey the message that it's trying to, or relaying, because I wouldn't say trying, because it's really delivering it. And I have found so many good quotes in here. Let's just find a random one. It is easy to cause friction and unintentional harm in a relationship when you do not know yourself and have spent little time addressing your past pain. How many relationships have folded under the weight of unprocessed trauma, unhealthy patterns, and unchecked reactions? Have you noticed that when you feel the urge to change someone, what you really want is for them to behave more like you? Sometimes you need to move slowly so you can then move powerfully. The modern world is so fast-paced that you feel the pressure to keep up. Setting aside what everyone else is doing and moving at your natural speed will help you make better decisions and lift up your inner peace. So it's got some really beautiful passages, and it's almost in a way, or at least to me it seems, because I can relate to a lot of what the book is talking about, it almost feels like a gentle call out and a reminder of what lives inside our heads is not always reality, and oftentimes we live in these unconventional, totally imaginary what ifs, and we concern ourselves so much with the possibilities of something or the outcome of something that we don't live in the present, and we don't learn, and we don't take advantage of the time that we do have. And so it's just really interesting on like a psychological perspective how we do these things, and I really like the way that the book is collection, I should say. I like how the collection is displaying all of those things. I will say it is very repetitive, and that's the one thing this is going against it. Everything is stunning, but some poems are things that I've already read before within the collection. And so the one thing I do wish was that it had some semblance of diversity with what it's trying to establish conversation-wise, because otherwise there's a lot that could have been cut from here, and it really would be making no difference because it's the same thing, just written differently. Hello, I'm taking the annotation supplies that I took with me to the coffee shop, and the lighting is gonna change real quick. Let me just turn on this light. And I'm also gonna be starting Jade Legacy during the live show so that I can make some progress with this. So that's the plan. Let me log on to this live show, start reading, get myself some water too. Okay, update. So I did finish Floridian Connection. It is annotated and loved, and it was really good, but I think I stand by my opinion of saying that this was very repetitive. So that is kind of my final opinion on this, and I think everything else still does stand. So I'm gonna rate this 3 stars, but it was good. And I actually didn't know, but the author is Latin, so love that. For the star of the next show, we've got this. And when I tell you all, I am terrified. I'm very scared. Also massive, and it's also longer than I thought it was. Literally 713 pages, and I am terrified. It's the way that I've only read 2 chapters of Jade Legacy, and I already feel broken. I am broken. I just am. The commentary on misogyny and the patriarchy in the East at the time that the book takes place into like roughly something like the 70s. I need somebody to come pick me up and help me, because chapter 2 of Jade Legacy, like I've literally been staring at nothing for like a solid 13 minutes. And I know that because the sprint started 13 minutes ago and I've done nothing in 13 minutes. So that means I've been literally just staring at my computer screen for that amount of time, and I don't know what to do with myself. And this book will be the definition of emotional damage, and I am not ready. And also the fact that I'm using the death bookmark just feels very fitting, but it's also sort of like an omen of what's to come, and I am not emotionally ready for this crap. I already feel like crying. Like that's I just feel emotionally exhausted already. Fondly is literally gonna drain my life energy source, okay? Goodbye. Y'all, it's the way that I literally read 50 pages of Jade Legacy and I'm emotionally drained. Like, I'm not even kidding. Miss Fonda Lee, if she weren't a black belt, I might just challenge her to a brawl because I cannot. And here's the thing, and this is what I was telling Gav because he joined me for Sprint. Fonda Lee just has a way of making emotion hit different. Any other fantasy book that I read, it's like, oh my god, like, yeah, that's sad, like somebody died. I feel like the way that she's writing characters, it's not only so realistic and it's about real life, everyday things that is just making my heart want to cry and burst and break. I think particularly how she writes couples distancing and things getting in the midst of a relationship is so gut-wrenching, and just also not listening, but getting to read about the inner thoughts and the inner monologue of these characters and how they have conditioned themselves to believe that their thoughts are right, and to also just get a landscape that is, you know, kind of full of misogyny, and that the patriarchy is very strong, and that women essentially have to follow their husband's command, which is, you know, something that you see culturally a lot in the East, is just hitting all kinds of different in a way that I personally didn't expect. And I am just in awe and in shock, and I need a break. So in the spirit of self-care, because Jade Legacy during a self-care readathon is anything but self-care, like I literally want to bawl my eyes out. So I am instead going to sit down and watch RuPaul's Drag Race because we got a new episode today. And that's what I'm doing. Also, the sky looks stunning. Good morning, friends. How are we doing today? Hello. I love that I always say good morning, how are we doing today every time I upload in the morning, despite the fact that you guys cannot visibly reply right now. Still, it stands. Hi, how are we doing? It is officially Sunday, the last day of the readathon, and it is currently 8:37 a.m. and I was really tired yesterday. I don't know how past Mel, young Mel, innocent, naive Mel would stay up the whole 24 hours when she started doing readathons. At this point, I'm a tired old lady, and that's just where we're at, because when I tell y'all 11 p.m. hits and I'm already like, that's just how things are now. But I watched the newest episode of Drag Race yesterday as I was eating, and then with my patrons we watched the first 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, and we had a movie night today. Well, we have a movie night today, and I think I'm changing it for more episodes of Game of Thrones, because if you've watched this show, then you know there is no way of just watching and stopping. This is like such a bingeable TV show. I think that's gonna be the vibe after Sprint. But updates, kind of, but like not really. These 2 books are going to be the focus of the day. So I am gonna make a little bit more progress with Jade Legacy. Like Jade Legacy, between me being tired yesterday and this book being absolutely emotionally scarring, I had to stop, because the one thing that Fonda Lee is doing in this book, and mind you, the writing for the other 2 books was superb as well, but this though, it's like she leveled up, she drank something, did something, because right off the bat, there's just this reaction that she gets out of you that I didn't necessarily find myself feeling in the first 2 books, but right off the bat, the way that she is writing the separation between couples, this distance, this yearning for what it used to be, which sadly happens to a lot of couples and a lot of marriages and a lot of partnerships, and the way that she is describing that, it seems too real. And I don't know. See, this is my critique, not critique necessarily, but this is always my thing with the Greenbone saga. Fantasy sci-fi, but it feels so damn real. And I'm reading about these characters and I'm reading their thought process, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I don't know how you can justify being such a vile human being, or even just, you know, like fathoming the these ideas which are like so horrible and how you can justify those to yourself, and also just being completely sad at this one character being like, I yearn for the days where this person looked at me that way, touched me that way, and I don't know if this person believes I'm like a fragile China doll now, but I'm not. And so it's hitting in ways that I didn't think it would hit, and I just I'm getting choked up. I don't know, it's just getting an emotional reaction out of me, so it's really good. I am 50 pages in, so hopefully I get to maybe page 100 today, and I think that'd be good. Between the 100 and 200 page mark is kind of where I want to be at the end of the day with this one, but I also want to make progress with Addie because I really want to start my reread of it. So I think I'm just gonna read Jade Legacy first and then move to Addie and read some of this. And again, like, none of these books are I want to finish them vibes. This is just I want to make progress into what'll continue to be a reread or just my weekly read. Friends, can you tell what I just filmed? Hello. So the readathon ended last night. Hi. And today is Monday, so the readathon has already ended. However, I didn't update you guys yesterday after I kept reading and what I got up to with Addie because we got distracted by Game of Thrones and then we watched the majority of season 1. And today we're planning to finish it, or at least get further into it so that we can finish it tomorrow. We'll see where it goes, but we watched so many episodes. It's just literally one of those shows that you can binge and like not want to stop. It's so good and it gets better as you go. It was the best self-care vibes, to be honest with you. However, a little wrap up into what happened this weekend with the 48-hour readathon. So books I finished, these 3 right here. So we've got How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, we've got The Queen of Nothing, and then we also have Clarion Connection. So I finished all of these 3 books and I thoroughly enjoyed my journey, even though not all of them were 5 stars. The only 5 stars was How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. I again had a great time with them and they really just gave me all that I needed for this weekend, and it was probably one of the best weekends that I've had in a while. It was filled with good food, with coffee, with chai lattes, with watch parties and sprints and just a lot of laughs. So overall it was a really great time, and I'm so happy that I read these books because also I finished the series, so I'm always happy with that, with project completion this year. So let me set these down here, and then as for the 2 books that I said I wanted to make progress in but not necessarily finish, I did read Addie LaRue yesterday and I got up to page 115 of the book. At this point I've read 5 of Schwab's works if I'm not mistaken, and they've been so all over the place for me that I constantly just kind of want to give up reading Schwab stuff because I just get discouraged at the fact that this and Vicious were the only 2 that I really enjoyed. And so not having enjoyed Vengeful or the Darker Shades of Magic series, I was constantly going like, oh my god, do I want to keep reading Schwab? I don't know. And just Addie proves, especially as I was reading yesterday, how superior this is in writing, in my personal opinion. And I know for people who are like Schwab stans, like people who absolutely love her work, this was very different for them. And I know a lot of people didn't end up liking Addie or not liking it as much as her other works just because the writing style and the voice is so different. But I think it also shows you how versatile she is as a writer, that she can write very gruesome and morally gray stuff in series like Vicious, or she can write really interesting worlds like the Darker Shades of Magic series. This though is so lyrical and whimsical, and I love this so much because the way that Addie thinks is so similar to how I got to think at one point in my life. I didn't want to be stuck where I was and my job wasn't working and I didn't know what I wanted to do with school, and I always kind of had feelings of inadequacy and feelings of imposter syndrome. I still do to this day. And so I think in so many ways the internal monologue that Addie has is something that I deeply really relate to still to this day, maybe not to the same extent that I would 2 years ago, definitely still to some extent that I kind of read it and I go, how I see you, how I understand you. It feels very therapeutic and cathartic to read those things to me, and so that's why I just hold so much love for Addie. I also love Luke and I also love Henry, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this reread so much. Dare I say, maybe even more than the first time I read this. I don't know, I gave this 5 stars the first time I read this, but now kind of reading it with fresh eyes and really taking in the text, there's just something about this that it's hitting so different. Still in a great way, but very different. And this, I don't know why, this gave me Middle Game vibes. For the people who read Middle Game, are you lost? Deja vu, deja su, deja vu. Already seen, already known, already lived. They have been here before, walked this road, or something like it. And so Adeline now knows where to put her feet, knows what to say, which words will draw out kindness, knows that if she asks in the right way, Isabel will take her home and wrap a blanket around her shoulders and offer a cup of broth, and it will work until it doesn't. I think at this point, I'm reaching the point where I'm like, I read this and it was beautiful, but it's more beautiful than I remember. Voices carry on the wind, calling her name. Adeline? Adeline. Adeline. Her shadow stretches out ahead, too long, its edges already blurring, and small white flowers tumble from her hair, littering the ground like stars. Constellation left in her wake, almost like the one across her cheeks. 7 freckles, 1 for every love she'd have. That's what Estelle had said when the girl was still young. 1 for every life she'd lead, 1 for every god watching over her. Now they mock her, those 7 marks, promises, lies. She's had no loves, she's lived no lives, she's met no gods, and now she is out of time. But the girl doesn't slow, doesn't look back. She doesn't want to see the life that stands there waiting, static as a drawing, solid as a tomb. Instead, she runs. I don't know what to tell you guys beyond Addie is just such an intricately personal thing to me that every time I read it, I just go, you and I, Addie, you and I. And I definitely think it's one of those stories, and I've said this before, where if you don't vibe with Addie, you're absolutely going to despise the story. Like, this story is nothing without Addie. Don't know what else to say. It's a very character-driven story, and I personally really love it. So, having a great time with it. And I did read 115 pages. And then look, Fonda. What am I gonna do with you? Because I started Date Legacy, and at the point that the day ended yesterday, I'd only read, I think, like 108 pages or so. Now I'm further into it, but the first 100 pages of this book hit so hard. And I know I talked about this, but Fonda Lee just has a way of making you feel things in a very real and guttural way, and I have never experienced this with any other author. May I say that this book, the writing is so superior to the first 2. Like, I don't know what she injected onto these pages and onto these words, but they're just hitting. And even the characters that you don't agree with, like, you can tell it's not Fonda's point of view, it's not her mindset, it's the characters. That's how real the characters are. If there's an off comment, if there's something very immoral, if there's something very disrespectful or irresponsible of them, you can tell that the characters just have a life of their own. And what I like about this book is that you just see how life works. Not all of these people are good. Not all of them are morally correct. A lot of them have internalized phobias and things that they need to work out in their own time. But although those things are hard to read or disgusting to read, it is a representation of the people that live in this world. Not everybody is good. Not everybody has nice thoughts. Not everybody is going to do a nice deed. And so I like that Fonda continues to create these characters that as a collective feels like the real world. And I absolutely love that. And what I really like about this one too is that we're starting to see more technological advances. And as the book goes on, you can definitely see how all of these leadership roles, how all of these important roles are directly impacting all of these characters. They are not left unscathed just because their family has been doing this for years. They can tell how it affects them, how it changes their psyche, and how it continues to affect and destroy the people around them. Like, they are self-aware. They just keep doing it out of sense of duty. This series, man, like this series. And that is it for today, you guys. That was the 48-hour super chill readathon moment. I am so so excited that I did this weekend, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a massive thumbs up down below. Comment down below any and all books that you've read recently. How are you liking them? Have you read any of these books? Let a girl know down in the comments. And if you do want to participate in monthly readathons, I would highly suggest going on to Patreon. Patreon is where I'm doing monthly readathons, not only because it's a super safe environment, but also because it's less people, it's more contained, it's easier to manage versus public readathons, which often tend to be very overwhelming and stressful, and they are just very exhausting in general. So if you do want the monthly moment, there is Patreon, but if you do want the public ones, they are happening on a quarterly basis. So the next public readathon is happening in May. If you reached the end of the video, as always, let's leave some clock emojis down below in honor of the readathon moment. Don't forget to subscribe down below if you haven't done so already. I am constantly uploading videos that I am sure you do not want to miss. And once more, if you do want to join us over on Patreon, the link for that is always down below alongside all of my social medias. Thank you so much to Surfshark for sponsoring this video as well, and for saving our lives with some VPN. Don't forget to head on over to their website and use code MEL to get 83% off your subscription plus 3 months for free, which is phenomenal. I love you guys so much, and I shall see you on the next one. Bye, guys.